Welcome everybody. In Polish we say witamy po polsku to the Tadeusz Bradecki Prize 2026. This is our second year of the prize, and this year we also did a tiny literary gathering in Cornwall, which we hope will be the first of many of those too. So I want to thank you for coming from everywhere. We've got people from Slovenia, we've got people from Poland, we've got people from the length and breadth of England, we've also got people from the length and breadth of London, and we've got people watching us on Zooms around the country and world as well, she says grandly. I am Kate Sinclair. Tadeusz was my husband, and I am the founder of the prize. If any of you want to come and chat during the many martinis and wines later, do just come and find me if I don't know you already. I have to do a tiny bit of fast housekeeping, which, as some of you may have discovered, the toilets are sadly in the basement, which is a long way down. But the good news is there is a lift. Whoopee! For naughty smokers, there's a lovely roof terrace out there, so you don't have to go all the way down to the street. And for anything else, please ask the lovely staff of Ognisko who are here with us today. And I want to start our thanking for them, really, because we have our prize here every year. They always look after us marvellously well, as you can tell by the fabulous drinks and canapes and everything, and they are wonderful. So thank you very much for hosting us yet again. I also want to say thanks to our splendid judges. I have to say, first of all, we have a stupendous chair in Mr. Francis Spufford Notoriety Nonsuch. And Carol Welsh is also a wonderful judge. She's Queen of Publishing, as many of you here will know. Christoph Sanusi, who sadly can't be with us today because he's in the middle at 86 of making another film, is a fantastic filmmaker and also was a very long-term friend and collaborator of Tadeusz. I think Tadeusz was in 20 films of Christoph's, so they were very great friends. Then I have to thank the wonderful TB Prize team, without whom I couldn't do any of this. First of all, there is the most marvellous Mike, who is also runs other prizes and helps us and is just fabulous. Radiant and reliable Razor, who you've met at the door. We have also hilarious and helpful Helen, who's very humorous and keeps us all smiling. Then we've got marvellous, accomplished Adam over there doing our videos, and we also have the gorgeous Gina, who does all our press and publicity. So thank you to all of them. Now I want to say a very short word, because I know you want to get back to martinis and wine and things, but about Tadeusz, because he was a man of words and he loved words. And there is one word that sums him up for me, which is metaphysical. And in Polish, it's rather wonderfully metaphysically, which is full of fizzing and phosphorescence, which he sort of was as a person, full of energy and exploration, and he sort of loved to cross lots of things, which is why I wanted to make this prize in his image. He loved crossing boundaries, borders, languages. He spoke 5 languages, artistic categories when he made his work. He just loved sort of breaking the rules in a fabulous sort of walking on the wild side way. One or two of our shortlistees have kindly said in their films that they think that our prize is doing that we are trying to break the boundaries that quite often in any form of industry you get tied into. So that is something we've tried to go beyond languages, beyond territories, beyond categorization, and just explore. And I think our 6 shortlistees have all wonderfully done that in fabulously different ways. So I'm now going to hand you over to the marvellous Francis Spufford in yet another celebratory hat.
Thank you, Kate. My hat. I'm not sure it really lives up to the occasion. Also, my speech has no alliteration in it, which I now realise was a severe mistake. This is the second year of the Tadeusz Bradecki Prize, as Kate said. I think it's important who it was founded in honour of. A polyglot, an omnivorous and apparently omni-curious Polish theatre director who loved the possibilities that cluster where different kinds of writing meet and mix. His own last book, The End of Ends, which I happen, by sheer coincidence, to have a copy of here, is a celebration of what happens when the fictional and non-fictional, the dramatic and philosophical and science-fictional and, yes, metaphysical strands in European culture are allowed to play together. It's the book as firework display, and in running the prize to honour him, we look for writing that gives the same kind of pleasure as that. Pyrotechnical, unpredictable. Not the same in terms of what it aims for or what it mixes up, of course, but the same in terms of a commitment to the individual adventure that each book can be. The first year, there was some understandable uncertainty about what we were looking for among publishers and editors, but this time round, the idea is clearly bedding down nicely. People are beginning to get a feel for the kind of books the Tadeusz Bradecki Prize exists to celebrate. And so the submissions this year have been both gloriously wide-ranging and gloriously on point, dedicated to the endless things the factual and the fictive can do together, which made our job harder as judges, of course. But we arrived in the end at a shortlist which we think that Tadeusz Bradecki would have liked and which we hope you'll like too. Taking the 6 shortlistees in strict alphabetical order of surname, no significance should be attached to this order. Ewald Fliessar's My Kingdom is Dying is a glittering metafiction. Olivia Lang's The Silver Book is a documentary novel about the decadent, perverse, visually astonishing golden age of Italian cinema in the 1970s. Thea Lenarduzzi's The Tower is a meditation on the slipperiness of history and of historical truth. Julian Brave Noisecat's We Have Survived the Night is a monument to the survival of the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest, built brilliantly out of a mixture of memoir and retold folk tales. Madeleine Tien's The Book of Records is speculative fiction that shows that speculative fiction can do the past as well as the future. And Lea Ypi's Indignity is an exploration of the tragedies and darknesses of 20th century Albanian history, told through a family history that couldn't rest as non-fiction and had to break out into the novel to spectacular effect. And we have 6 videos of each of our shortlistees, which, if I raise my voice sufficiently, should be coming up now.
I have been asked to answer 3 simple questions. I will try, but to be honest, it is easier to write a novel than talk about it. Why did I write My Kingdom is Dying, which has found a place among the 6 finalists for this important prize? Writing a novel is, at least for me, a way of turning my inner chaos into a story that makes sense and enables me to find an answer to the painful questions that never leave me alone. Why am I here? What is the purpose and the meaning of life? Is life a present I should be grateful for, or is it a punishment for sins I may have committed in one of my previous lives? Combining non-fiction and fiction is something that I cannot avoid. It's the only way I can write, and that applies to all my novels. To be one of them shortlisted for a prize whose importance and fame will, without a doubt, continue to grow, is not only a pleasant surprise, but also something of which, although I'm a modest person, I'm genuinely proud. The consequences will not be surprising. As soon as I return home, I will start writing another novel.
Hi, I'm Olivia Lang. The Silver Book is a love story and a thriller set in Rome and Venice in 1975 around the making of two masterpieces of Italian cinema, Fellini's Casanova and Pasolini's apocalyptic fable of fascism, Salò. I wanted to write it to explore that world of making, but also to really consider the question of art and fascism. The central event in it is the brutal and still unsolved murder of Pier Paolo Pasolini in 1975. And I knew right from the beginning that I didn't want to write that as a non-fiction book, which is what I normally write. I wanted to cut straight to the heart of the story, to include material that would not be in the archive, to really enter into it, and at the same time to try and have the same sort of rigour and strictures as non-fiction. It was by far the most exciting book I've written, but it also felt very transgressive, which is why I'm so delighted to be shortlisted for this prize and so delighted that this prize exists, because I think some extraordinarily exciting writing is coming from the margins.
I didn't exactly set out to write The Tower. It would probably be more accurate to say that it wrote me. The story unfolded in ways I could never have predicted, and in hindsight, that means it makes a deeper kind of sense. As it developed, I found myself being drawn to questions of power, responsibility, control, and purpose in storytelling. So not just the what stories are told, but the why and the how and the by whom they're told. Writing across the boundary between fiction and non-fiction, that wasn't a deliberate choice either. Like walls erected or barriers, borders erected between territories, that all feels artificial to me, determined and policed by external pressures, external forces. The brain doesn't work that way. Our identities don't work that way. We don't experience life nor remember it in neat categories. So why should our writing about it be fixed in that way? But most books do accept those artificial boundaries. This book is fiction, this book is non-fiction, and markets and bookshop shelves and, of course, prizes reinforce those divisions so the reader, or as the market would have it, the consumer, can feel confident in what they're buying. The Tadeusz Bradecki Prize stands apart in that respect, in celebrating work that resists those limits, and so it's a tremendous honour for me to be shortlisted alongside 5 masters of those wild lands. Those wild lands where I believe the best kind, the truest kind of expression originates.
Wade Quilhoydup. Hey everybody, this is Julian Brave Noisecat, author of We Survived the Night, an Indigenous Reckoning, a portrait of Indigenous life across Canada and the United States, told in a literarily ambitious and innovative way as a retelling of the epic misadventures of my people's first ancestor, the trickster coyote, who was sent to the earth by Creator to set things in order, but who was a trickster. And so while he did some good, he was often up to no good. So through the stories of the coyote, I write about myself, my father, and my grandfather. It was quite an adventure to write this book. I actually moved in with my old man to write it, which is where I rediscovered the coyote stories. I had only ever heard a member of my family tell one of these stories once, which is to say that they have very nearly died out among my own people. And yet there are so many parallels between the coyote and my father, my grandfather, myself, and echoes of the ideas running through these stories in the broader Indigenous world today. So this book is really not just a retelling of these stories in narrative nonfiction, which is how my own people would have originally regarded these stories, but also a revitalization of the art form of the coyote story. It's a real honor to have my work shortlisted alongside all these other incredible genre-pushing works in the English language. And I just want to thank the judges and the prize for this incredible honor. Cooks Jetrop, thank you all so much. All my relations.
My name is Madeline Tien, and my novel is The Book of Records. It's set in an enclave where different centuries wash in like the tides. I wrote it to think about the longing for an education, especially when an education seems most out of reach, and there's this hunger for it. And it's a meditation on time and space and ideas that join the centuries together. It mixes fiction and nonfiction to tell the lives of Hannah Arendt, Baruch Spinoza, and the Chinese poet Du Fu, and to think about what it means to take responsibility for telling the life story of another, what it means to breathe the past into life again, and what we hope for when we retell that story, the kinds of mistakes we might make, the kinds of hopes we bring to it. Being shortlisted for the Tadeusz Bradecki Prize is so moving to me. I do think my novel is quite weird and classifiable. It was a labor of love, and it means the world to me to have this generous reading from the jury and to be shortlisted alongside these incredible writers. So thank you very much.
The book begins with a mysterious viral photograph of my grandmother shared by a stranger on social media, depicting her on her honeymoon in Cortina d'Ampezzo in the winter of 1941. This photograph, as well as the denigrating comments by the users who accused my grandmother for being a spy, led me to try to uncover a series of mysteries around her life by putting together what I knew from her based on stories that she had told me and what I could find in Secret Service archive and police documents. So the book is a journey through Balkan history intertwined with the history of Europe, but reconstructs the ups and downs of a young woman's life, and that asks the question of what kind of moral standing previous generations have, and how do we defend the dignity of someone who is no longer alive. Writing across fiction and nonfiction was essential to the book's central argument. I went into the archives looking for the truth from my grandmother's life and discovered that actually that truth had been systematically destroyed by Secret Service, communists, by nationalist forces, by histories that had erased women's voices. And so I couldn't just write history. I had to think about what we do when historical records fail us. And the answer the book arrives at is that we turn to imagination, to literature, to the novel, to the capacity to enter the minds of people who lived before us, but under the same pressures as us. And so in many ways, the form of the book, moving between archive and philosophy, between family, memories, and political history, wasn't just a stylistic choice, but an argument about vindicating dignity itself. I am delighted and honored to be shortlisted for the prize. We live in a moment when the past is being actively weaponized and historical memory is manipulated in the service of nationalist projects that scapegoat minorities and undermine international institutions. My grandmother lived exactly through that moment, and for me, being shortlisted for a prize that celebrates books crossing genres, boundaries, disciplines, feels especially politically significant, because the act of crossing borders, of refusing to stay within the boundaries that others draw for you, is itself a political stance, and this is what the book is all about.
I am very glad that Madeleine Tien said weird and unclassifiable, because weird and unclassifiable are the bread and butter of this particular prize. But now comes the unfortunate bit where we have to do winners. This prize, though, does the kind thing of having two runners-up as well as one ultimate winner. So I would like to announce, please, that the runners-up for this year's Tadeusz Bradecki Prize are Ewald Flissard and Olivia Lang. And if you'd like to come up, please, using But the final out-and-out winner of the 2026 Tadeusz Bradecki Prize is Julian Brave Noisecat for We Survived the Night. I think he has somebody here to speak for him. He does. Good.
I just prepared a few words because I didn't know what to expect. Thank you, first of all, to the judges and to the Tadeusz Bradecki Prize. It's a real honour to accept this prize on behalf of Julian. Julian Brave Noisecat is someone who, in his very life, crosses so many boundaries. He's not only an extraordinary writer of great talent, he's also a filmmaker whose documentary about abuse at St. Joseph's Mission School was nominated for an Oscar Prize. He is a prize-winning powwow dancer, a journalist, an activist, an artist, whose sketches are also included in the book. So it feels like a really fitting prize for this work. Julian set out to write the book about the first peoples of North America, to ask, who are we? How should our stories be told? And why should these stories matter to people beyond just us? And I think that the answers can be found not only in his book, but also in this prize, which is a real honouring of these stories that are so important nowadays for everyone to hear. So thank you so much.
So now I just have to urge you to drink more martinis if there are any left, or if not, move on to the marvellous Georgian wine, or beer, or whatever else you like, or lemonade. Thank you.